This Sun-Gazette video coverage is proudly sponsored by Woodlands Bank.
Hey everyone, welcome to Sports Talk this week. You can see we have an extra person here with us, so we got the whole sports gang in here for this week's Sports Talk. I'm Jon Gerardi, sports editor, alongside Henry Huber, sports reporter, and the doctor, Chris Masse, as usual. And I should know, Hall of Famer Chris Masse, recent West Branch Hall of Fame inductee, so congrats on that, Chris.
Appreciate it. Yeah, they've definitely lowered the standards, so I appreciate them doing it. I like to think it's for my athletic achievements at Garnet Valley that got me over the top.
And when you single-handedly willed the relay team to a sixth-place finish at districts.
Fifth.
Sorry.
We got a medal. We were in eighth. We were in dead last when I got the baton, and then we were in fifth when I ended. So technically, I should get all four medals. But I'll let them hack them. Let them keep theirs.
All right, well, let's get into it here with some Week 5 football, which is crazy to think we're already in Week 5.
It is.
This season's flying by. Let's kind of get into it right here. Williamsport with a 20-0 win over Shikellamy. Millionaires defense limited the Braves to 177 total yards, 99 on the ground. Just seemed to be a big game just from the Millionaires defensively this past week.
Yeah, it's their second shutout of the season, second in 3 weeks, and now second in 4 weeks. And starting defense has only allowed, or it's the third time the starting defense hasn't allowed a point all season. Mm-hmm. They've only allowed 10 points overall. So, it's like pitching. It's like pitching in baseball. I mean, that travels. If the offense can have off nights, but if you're playing great defense every night, you got a chance to win. And this was a night where Williamsport's offense kind of sputtered a little bit, but having that rock-solid defense keeps them in every game.
Yeah, no, Henry, you saw Williamsport obviously earlier this year. Just talk about their defense a little bit, what you kind of saw from them, and, is that did you kind of expect that this week?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's they've yet to give up 100 passing yards in a game so far this season, and I mean, I pulled off multiple sacks in that game against Wyoming Valley West. Mm-hmm. I mean, I want to say, I was looking at the stats. I think Wyoming Valley West was just over 100 yards and like less than 50 through the air. So, yeah. I mean, yeah.
And they're leading the area in terms of points per game and yards per game. So, it's pretty. You can definitely hang your hat on that. And they were kind of shorthanded offensively Friday night. So, again, to have that defense carrying you is big. And then Parker Johnson had 2 more field goals, giving them 6 now in the season. So defense and special teams came up huge for Williamsport.
And Williamsport also didn't put up huge numbers this week, but they did enough to get the points, get Parker Johnson in the field goal range and stuff like that. Elijah Way, 8 for 15, 102 and a touchdown, which those numbers aren't going to jump out at you, but again, is enough to get them the win and put them in position for Parker Johnson to get those field goals.
Yeah, and Johnson's such a weapon. I mean, you get inside the red zone and you feel like you're coming away with something. You're at least coming away with 3 points. You feel like, not to jinx him, but he's 6 for 6 in field goal attempts right now.
Yeah.
So I mean that's a huge asset. And yeah, if your defense keeps playing it like that and keeping you in every game, those 3-pointers are huge.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean their offense has a lot of balance as well. I mean, as you mentioned, Elijah Way in his first year as a starter has been solid, and then you've got Kyer Wally and Giovanni White at running back. Both of them have been solid this year. 3 100-yard games between the pairs.
Yep. Let's kind of look. Shamokin with a 30-28 win over Jersey Shore. That was their first regular season loss since 2019, which is just crazy to think they had a streak that long with them. But, Shamokin just kind of, they came to play. They knew what they had to do, and they got the win.
I'll let you go first since you covered the game.
I mean, as you mentioned, the last time they lost the regular season game, sports writing wasn't even in my, I didn't even considered it yet. Yeah. So that's pretty crazy to think about. And I mean, both sides of the ball. I mean, clearly legitimate. They, struggled a little bit defensively through the first half, but. I mean, allowed just 7 points there in the second, and then the offense, struggled initially, but Chase Pencil made some great receptions to get them going. And then second half, they were a completely different team, ran the ball really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like last year Shamokin was kind of laying the foundation for a rising power. They're strong up front. They got a lot of big boys. They got a lot of speed. Logan the Animal Steele, I call him. He's only a sophomore, but he's one of the more versatile quarterbacks in D4. He's a great weapon. They got everything you need to make a run. They got 2 good running backs, a couple of good receivers. You mentioned Chase number 2 pencil. I like that nickname too.
I do like all the nicknames we're able to throw around.
So they're going to be tough, and they're kind of still fairly young in terms of they got a lot of good underclassmen. So from Jersey Shore's perspective, it stinks to lose, but if it's not the last loss of the season, then you can learn a lot from it.
Exactly.
And possibly see him again.
Shamokin, I don't know. You may know, Masse, the last time Shamokin or Jersey Shore got outgained in rushing yards, total yards, and passing yards. It has to have been a while.
It's been a long time. Maybe the Aliquippa game, and I don't even think that. Because I think Shore might have outgained them in the state semis that year. You might have to go back to that 2019 game against Southern Columbia for when that their last loss before that in the regular season. And that just highlights that it wasn't a fluke or anything like that. This was just Shamokin asserting itself and proving that it's a force to be reckoned with now.
Yeah, I mean, and not to mention they responded really well to Jersey Shore going up 13-0, and then I mean, Shore gets they get right on the edge of the red zone with a chance to put 2 scores in, and Chase Pencil makes an interception in the end zone. I mean that was game changing.
Yeah,
and I mean their response really shows that it's not just talent. It's it's on the mental side, they're stout as well.
I think a lot of teams too. If you go down 13-0 to Shore and they're driving right at the brink of the end zone, you might be panicking a little bit on defense because Shore's not a team you want to go down 3 scores against. But for Pencil to get that pick, shift the momentum there a little bit, and the defense I believe had 3 interceptions against Jersey Shore, so they did well overall against the Bulldogs to gut out that win.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like Shore was running out of time there at the end of the first half either. They, Shamokin didn't have a chance to score, but I mean, Shore could, if they get that first down there at the end, they're in the red zone with 30 seconds left. I mean, there's a very, very good shot that they score there.
Yeah, I mean, again, down 13-0 and 20-7. That's a lot of times Jersey Shore starts burying teams at that point. That's when they kind of start imposing their will and pulling away. And for Shamokin saw it last year. They were beating Jersey Shore 7-6 at halftime and ended up losing 42-7. So for them to kind of stem that tide and start throwing haymakers back. When they were against the ropes, that's huge for them. The psychological aspect for them is really impressive. And they kind of broke down that barrier that I think a lot of teams have been trying to knock down for a long time against Jersey Shore, and that's huge for them too going forward.
Montoursville, they come up with a 27-20 win against Mifflinburg on the road. Christian Banks scores. Let's just talk about Christian Banks first of all. 25 carries, 181 yards, 3 touchdowns. He kind of just put the team on his back and just really helped them gut out that win.
Yeah, regardless of whether it's a federal holiday, the Banks always keeps running for Montoursville.
I was going to go with something like that. I was going to say the Banks weren't close.
He's a hard-nosed runner. We've talked about him before. He's one of those guys that I think you tackle him in the first quarter and maybe he's only getting 2 or 3 yards, but the more you hit him as the game goes on, I think the more it wears on a defense because he's got that nice combination of power and speed. He fights for everything, so he's a tough kid to bring down, and he brings it on both ends, and he punts too. He never gets tired, so he's definitely a great spark plug for them.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen him play personally, but based off his stats, it seems like they have a I mean, I want to say he's averaging just over 7 yards per carry. I mean, he's definitely pulling his weight there.
Yeah, I mean I mean him and. Let's just talk too about just him and Jimmy Messina at quarter. I mean, Jimmy last week 14, 121, 170 and a touchdown. They're really forming a really solid quarterback running back dynamic there, where Jimmy can throw the ball and move the ball chains with his arms, but if they have to run it, Banks just hand it off to Banks and let him do his thing.
Yeah, they have great balance. They've had great balance pretty much in all 4 games this year. And Jimmy Messina, like you mentioned, he's been really strong. He hasn't thrown an interception since the season opener. And they're really spreading the ball around. I think they've got 5 different kids that have caught touchdown passes. So they got a lot of different kids that can make plays for them. A lot of different receivers, like different styles of receivers too. They got Owen Kleinman's a good tight end. Michael Reeder can be a game breaker. Todd Crawford makes some tough catches. List goes on. And Hayden Harvey's a nice compliment to Christian Banks in the backfield. So they've just got a nice overall package to throw at teams and kind of keep teams on their heels a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I guess not to mention it does seem like Messina's he's improved with each game. I mean, against Mifflinburg, I want to say he was 14 of 20, almost 200 yards through the air. And, yeah, as you mentioned, I mean, no interceptions on the year at this point. So, I mean, I'm interested to see if that development continues.
Yep, exactly. Milton with an exciting 22-21 win over South Williamsport. Just a huge rally from the Black Panthers there in the second half. They were down 14-0 at halftime against South and just were able to put up 22 second half points. Masse, what do you kind of feel was the key for Milton to get that, to do that against a good South team?
Chase Lytle, I mean, that was only his second varsity start at quarterback. He's filling in for an injured Isaiah Minium. So for him to take the reins like that down the stretch, he ended up throwing for 164. That kind of channeling his inner Tom Brady and not needing the referees to bail him out like Patrick Mahomes.
Brady got his call. He got his fair. That's a discussion for another day.
Yeah. All right, we'll get back. Yeah. Because that could take a while. But Lytle doing that. Monty Fisher and Lucas Little Diddy coming up huge at receiver. Chris Doyle ran for 88 yards, so it was kind of everybody pitching in there to get 2 long drives going to win that game. And Milton's gutsy. That's the second time they've been down late in the fourth quarter on the road. It was the same way in the season opener against Shikellamy. They win that in overtime. And now they go for 2 and win this game by 1. So, they keep fighting. They're 2-2, but they, whether it's a win or a loss, they keep coming at you.
I mean, and I guess definitely showed a lot of poise down the stretch there. I want to say they turned the ball over a couple times in the first half.
Yeah, I think they had 4 overall.
I mean, and then they the way they were able to limit those. I mean, gave South less opportunities, I imagine.
Yeah,
so.
and I mean, like you mentioned, Matt, they go for 2. Just how much of a gutsy call is that in that situation to kind of. To basically play for the win there. Yeah,
I think it's easier in high school because kicking's not as reliable as it is in the pros. But yeah, I mean it's definitely a risk, and you don't get it. It's pretty much you got to try an onside kick then with just 26 seconds left. Yep. So it's always a roll of the dice when they do have a kicker and putting it all on one play, but I think it shows his belief in the offensive line and the playmakers to come through there, and they made him look smart for it.
Yep.
Oh, I mean,
I did, yeah.
Like it definitely shows confidence there. I mean, I imagine they had a few, imagine you gotta go with the best play there.
Yeah, yep, exactly.
Clearly it worked out.
Yeah. Massey, you went, Lewisburg with a 39-20 win this past week against Hughesville. You were at that game. Originally thought it was at Bucknell. Turns out it was at Maryland.
Yeah.
But you did get to stop
I was one of 3 writers that thought that.
But you did get to go to the KFC buffet.
Yeah.
So
they don't have the buffet anymore.
That's right.
Now, I went to KFC because it's delicious, but it's just not the same without the buffet.
That is true. That's unfortunate.
Leaves a hole in my heart.
But going to the game, Jeremiah Davis, just an absolutely monster performance. 22 carries, 215, 2 touchdowns. And you wrote in your column, Masse, about him. He kind of shined some light on his late father. Just a heck of an effort in him, and I'm sure an emotional kind of performance too, given his father.
Yeah, he plays every game for his dad and plays them really well. He's had 9 straight 100-yard games, and he's just like his father. He's a great leader. He's one of those guys that I think makes his teammates better because guys just gravitate towards him. And Coach Eric Wicks said, he's one of the best players on the team, and he goes out and he's doing all these little extra things at practice. And when you see one of your top guys doing everything extra and all these little things that make teams better, nobody else has any excuses for slacking off. So that's huge. And then you look at him as a football player. He's got the whole package. He's tough. He's gotten bigger over the years, and he's just so fast, and he sees the field so well, and he makes great cuts, and he gets stronger as the game goes on. He's been pretty dominant in the second half, all 4 games, and that was the case against Hughesville. He had 52 yards at halftime, and he ends up with 215. So, he's tough to stop. He's tough to contain for 4 quarters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think I want to say he's on pace at this point. He surpassed 1,000 in 3 games, which is just astounding.
Yeah, in Hughesville they kept it close early. I think they trailed by just 6 at halftime. But I guess what was the difference there in the halves?
Hughesville just struggled to finish drives in the second half. They did their passing game was great, and especially the second quarter for an offensive lover like me was a delight because it was 20-20 in that second quarter, and Hughesville was slinging it all over the field. They had 2 chances in the third quarter to take a lead. They were at the 7, had a 3rd and 2, 4th and 2, didn't convert. And then Dana Alabakoff had a game-changing interception to set up a touchdown that made it a 2-score game. So, combination of not finishing in the third quarter, and then unfortunately Blake Davis, their quarterback, was having a super game, and I think he broke his wrist. Unfortunately, now it's his non-throwing hand. So they're hoping if he can grip the ball, he can keep playing. But once they lost him, that put their offense in real dire straits. But he played a great game. Connor Knight had a huge game. Carson Stackhouse was making some fantastic catches. So Hughesville did a lot of good things that I think could be a good springboard for them going forward.
Yeah.
Yes, especially after they bounced back very well from their previous loss to Lowestoft, which was a bit just a bit more lopsided, and so says a lot about them. Yeah,
and I think offensively, with Blake Davis, that throws a huge wrench into kind of next week, what they're going to do. We'll get into next week's game here in a little bit, but Lewisburg now 4-0. Do you feel like that's surprising, or did you kind of think they had the ability to kind of be this good this early this year?
No, I thought they, because they closed real strong last year. They were 2-5. They won their next 4 games. They got to the district semis. They brought back a pretty good nucleus from that team, including pretty much all their linemen, and those guys have done a great job up front these first 4 games. So I'm not shocked, especially when they beat a really good Line Mountain team in the season opener. So not shocked, really. I thought they were capable of it. We'll see where they go from here, but I think that's definitely a team that can make some noise. AAA's loaded with Danville, Mount Carmel, Montoursville, Lewisburg's in there, but I think they're right there with some of the best teams in that field.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think they they shed any sense of surprise with that win against Line Mountain. Since then Line Mountain hasn't lost a game. Beat a solid Juniata team. So it's as you mentioned, that run last year is kind of indicative of the potential they had heading into this one.
Definitely. Muncie just absolutely cruising against Northwest, 61-0. The biggest thing, I know Muncie scored 48 points in the first quarter, which is ridiculous to put up for any team to put up that much in one quarter. Yeah. They're playing so well right now overall.
Yeah, I think Loyalsock and Muncie both had touchdowns in all three phases in the first quarter of their games. So yeah, that says a lot about the way you're dominating. And yeah, I mean, that's Muncie's steamrolled 3 straight teams since the Warrior run game. And that's a good, I mean, they've been heavy favorites in these games, and Sean Tetro has to like that they're coming out and not messing around. They're coming out and they're posing their will on teams. And he's got to like that they, unlike against Kawaneski Valley in week 3 where they were up 45-0 at the half and gave up 25 in the second half. Even though it was reserves giving up those points, he's got to love that, they kind of kept their foot on the gas and didn't let Northwest get anything going and only allowed 81 yards. So they're playing really well in all facets right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree.
I was going to say, Austin Johnson, the last few games since that Warrior run game, Austin Johnson has just been a force on the ground. This week he had 9 carries for 145. 2 touchdowns. Landon Walmer with 5 for 111 and 3. You can't really beat that up. Yeah. That efficiency. Henry, you talked about in the football magazine about how Austin was recruited both D1 for football and wrestling. Ultimately went wrestling, but I think he's showing why he had that D1 interest in football.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, like whenever I talked to him, he did talk about how he's he obviously he loves football. I mean he's still still really giving that preseason prep is all. So and that's showing.
Yeah. Masse, just talk about kind of the two-headed monster with Johnson and Walmer and how tough that is for a defense to kind of contain.
Yeah, because you focus so hard on trying to contain Austin Johnson because he's such a tank and can be a runaway train. But Landon Walmer's really dangerous, and he's for his career he's averaged over 10 yards a carry. So he's kind of the epitome of a home run hitter, and he's a jack of all trades too. He's a great receiver out of the backfield too. He had, last year he unfortunately got hurt in the second quarter against South in the district final, but he already had over 100 yards receiving when he did get hurt. So yeah, he gives them a different look too. It's kind of a Mr. Inside and Mr. Outside, and Walmer's. He's got speed, but he's also got some power to him. So it's a definite thunder and lightning duo, and makes it hard on defenses, especially when you got Styles Iyer at quarterback, who hasn't had to throw often, but who can make plays.
Oh yeah, yep. Montgomery here, big win, a nice win from there, 28-3 against Wyalusing. Big second half. They led just 7-3 at halftime, and then they score 21 there to put the game away in the second half. Just a great halftime adjustment there by the Red Raiders to just get something kind of going in the second half to be able to kind of to score those touchdowns and kind of put that game away when they needed to.
Yeah, I said last week I thought the Raiders were building something good, and I think this game shows that they're for real because Wyalusing was 3-0 and hadn't let up a point since the opener. They had only allowed 12 points all season, and Montgomery kind of dominated both lines of scrimmage and kept imposing their will. I keep saying imposing their will, but I like that term. They kept asserting themselves up front on both sides of the ball, shut down Wyalusing's power running game that they take so much pride in. And they're throwing in just enough passing to keep defenses honest. Parker Persing had a touchdown pass. So they kind of got everything working right now. It's 2 straight dominant wins, and we'll talk about them playing Canton this week. But I love what Montgomery's doing right now.
Mm-hmm. I was going to say, are you kind of impressed, Henry, with the last few games here?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say even in their 28-point loss to Warrior Run, I thought they were impressive. I mean, I think it was really just like them struggling with field position. Mm-hmm. That was the issue there. Like the defense looked great. They gave up 35, but I think as I said, a lot of that had to do with field position. I mean, Warrior Run started 2 of their drives in the red zone. So
and that always hurts when you hit it. Yeah. And Coy Bryson, just big game for him, 167, 2 touchdowns. Just how big of an impact player do you guys both think he's turning out to be for Montgomery?
I mean, he showed that towards the end of last season, and having someone like Bell Calvin back like that is keeps gives them a player they can consistently turn to when they need to.
Yep.
Yeah, he's just a hard-nosed kid that fights for everything, fights for every yard. Like Henry mentioned, I mean, he had over 400 yards in their finale against CMVT last year, so he's just kind of picking up where he left off last season, and he's one of those kids too that I think they ride him, they give him a lot, and he's one of those kids that wears on you as the game goes on, and they got enough, Trace Furman, Cam Waltz, they're running the ball pretty well, Lincoln Miller too, so they have enough guys to complement him, and Coy is great on defense too. He's a great linebacker for them, so they got a lot of kids that are playing really well right now, but I think he's definitely kind of the person that makes them go.
Yep. All right, that'll do it for our breakdown here from week 4, but when we come back here, we're going to look at week 5 and kind of what key differences will be for these different games coming up.